Live. I'm gonna intro you in. All right, so we are live. We had to go live from a different YouTube channel this week. Let me go ahead and screen share over here. All right, screen share. All good. All right, guys. So this is another episode of Real Talk. This week, we are building with Aseer the Duke of Tears. He's backstage right now. Got a couple things going on. We had some technical difficulties, but we're able to get up and running. Let me go ahead and screen share to the Zoom screen so I can make sure that the people can see what's going on here. And then
this is the last one.
All right, so Aseer, we got quite a few topics, and I know we're on a time crunch, so I'm not gonna hold you too long. We got a couple of topics that I wanted to get into today, and I'm trying to make it actually the cam focus on you. I don't know why it won't, but
yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's always something with this shit, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Whenever shit they know I'm coming on, it'd be like, let's try to delay this shit as much as possible, And
I find that funny. I'm gonna stop video so that the camera over here can focus on you. Oh no, I still ain't even gonna do that then. All right, so
radio show.
We had last week we did an interview with a brother. He's a fighter. He's a Muay Thai pro fighter. And we put in the title, none of the footage that we're using are ours. We gave credit to who the footage was for, Glory Kickboxing. And we did that on like Wednesday. On Friday, I posted the cover art. Yo, we going live with Aseer the Duke of Tears. All of a sudden, we can't go live for a week on the YouTube page.
Wow, see? Told you, fam. I'm telling you, these niggas be really on some arc like shit with me. They try to make it difficult for people to have me on and certain shit. You know what I mean? They've been doing it since I was doing the Blog Talk radio shit though. It's like this is what it's been. But other people that's just talking nonsense can be on all night, all day. You know what I'm saying?
Especially if you're pushing their agendas.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And because I'm not, what's up, buddy? And because I'm not, well, I've been on this, before the internet. You know what I'm saying? It's like the internet algorithm is catching up to all of the stuff I've been out there. So they do a low-key shadow ban on my stuff. I'll have mad subscribers. And then, but when I upload new tapes or upload new videos, they won't get notifications. They just be doing wild shit like that with me.
Yeah, and there's no surprises on this part. I watch a lot of your content, a lot of truth tellers content, and you probably got more issues. The only person I even know that comes close is a sister that we have on the podcast, Paige Flower. Shout out to the homie Paige. And she's always talking about spirituality and metaphysics and moving away from this system. So now there's a couple of different topics I want to get into, but obviously today being Saturday the 19th, we got so many melanated people really delving into this whole Juneteenth thing. So for the people who don't know, I'm not even going. If you don't know Aseer the Duke of Tears and you happen to find yourself coming across this episode, in our bio of this episode, you could go back and check out some of the previous builds that we did with the brother. We got probably 5-6 hours total combined with you already, and that's in the bio. So Aseer, Juneteenth, could you tell us what you know about it and what your thoughts are on it?
Initially, what it was the area that they saying that a lot of the stuff happened in Texas was still a part of the old Mauritanian, or let's say Moorish people's empires that existed in them states. So because the United States was, now usurping all of the original empires that existed in the landmass. What they were doing was,
and not to cut you off, Aseer, just to give better understanding for those unfamiliar. When you say the United States, you are talking about the corporation or the country itself?
When I talk about the United States, I'm talking about the corporation that was officially established in 1871. Prior to that, the initial Juneteenth, the mainstream story says that in 1863, on this date, your man Lincoln put out the Emancipation Proclamation. And then from there, everybody was allegedly supposed to be free, but nobody was allegedly freed really until 1865, till they sent the U.S. forces into what we call today the Republic of Texas, that we Moors used to refer to as ancient Mauritania or Grenada or whatever. So depending on what you are in the story, depends on your understanding of the time period and what was happening at the time. You know what I'm saying? So what we perceived as a civil war was a global war. Okay? It was happening all over the planet.
And this is the war against the Moorish Empire?
The Civil War in the United States was connected to the grand war that was happening globally between us against them. Us being the perpetual free sultanates, estates, empires, kingdoms, dominions that were fighting against the new corporatized nations, countries, and states that they're trying to set up.
So this is essentially the attempt to eradicate free peoples.
Yes. So emancipate comes from the Latin term emancipato. And emancipato means to change ownership, transfer ownership. It don't mean to free nobody. So nobody was freed in 1863. The only people who was freed or who was transferred from one owner to the next was the indentured, servile, Caucasoid, immigrant slave class. And analogous to them were the so-called POWs who were imported from places today that we would call like Africa, but were really imported from other dominions that was within the same landmass. So because you had different nations that was at war over here, like you had the Kickapoo, the Kickapoo who one time was against the Pawnee. Then you had the Shoshone that almost wiped out the Cheyenne. You know what I'm saying? Like you got different clans that was already fighting wars against each other over here.
Right, prior to any type of colonization.
Yeah, we always had problems, you know what I'm saying? But the empire was consolidated. But within that consolidated empire, you had different kingdoms and dominions. And sometimes they would have beef. And when they would have beef, they would fight each other. And certain ones employed different types of tactics. So ones that had more European backings would usually have Slavs, castrados, janissaries, i.e., remade Muslim sons, ex-white slaves that they had now trained to be soldiers to now come in and fight on behalf of whatever Moorish dominion or so-called American Indian dominion that owned these niggas that was going to go fight people that looked like them, meaning us.
So
and then when they would
question, and I know, like, but you're saying so much, and I know so many of these things are so deep. How did it go from, because when you're saying the Slavs, the castrados, you can even see how that ties, the concept of castrados ties directly into Freemasonry with the aprons and hiding their shame. How did it go from the melanated indigenous people here that were a part of the empire owning these specific castrados to then, it being written as our ancestors being the people in servitude? Where did that change happen?
Because of the abolitionists, which were blacks who were tired of importing Caucasian slaves and paying European governments the duty for them.
Taxes.
Right? Taxes on them. So they got tired of that. So they found a way around that. Another way they did it was importing. Another way they did it was peerage, where white women, what we would perceive as white women, would be taken and sold in mass throughout the different harems throughout the empire. And then they would use these white women, or these so-called Caucasian WIGHT women, as like money.
Right, currency.
So like you would sell them. So there's a book called White Women Captives in North Africa. Everybody should get that book, especially white women, because then it would get them to understand why they've been so hypersexualized and so put in positions of to be, you know, the Ophelia for the Othello. You know what I'm saying? Like they've always been used like that. But what I'm saying is that these Moors, i.e. melanated, let's call them Amerindian, whatever you want to call them, that was already here, that already had their empire, they would bang on one another. And then some of them that had European backing would have castrato slaves, white slaves, eunuchs, whatever you want to call these white males, fighting for them. And then as the reward, once they would disenfranchise whoever they was fighting on behalf of whatever Moors or American Indians put them in the battle, they then could lease the land from them when it was done. You understand? And then that's how they became land holders, but they're not land. Oh, remember, they were never slave owners, they were slave holders. So we were the ones that were importing the Slavs or the esclaves, you understand? And these things, or these people, or these beings were slaves throughout the world. Has nothing to do with us just doing that to them. But analogous to them, you had other groups that were melanated that weren't as connected to the higher aspects of the so-called empire that other groups were.
Are these the people that you refer to as dirty Moors?
Yes. So they had the preponderance or the ability to use their prestige to be able to purchase prisoners of war and then send them to other parts of places that needed fighters. And then when they would get bagged up, they would then get turned into slaves too. You understand? Yeah. So when they talk to you about like the Buffalo Soldiers and these type of people, whatever, all them niggas was sellouts. You understand? The Wild Wild West started in 1865, the same year that the so-called started. Because what you had was, you had the United States government that was now trying to exacerbate its potential through a campaign they were referring to as the annexation of Texas. You can get the Congressional Globe document on this. It's still up in there. And in the annexation of Texas, it says that the land, that all of the land belonged to the ancient Mauritanians. That's us. That's us as Carthaginians, Phoenicians, ancient Egyptians, Hittites, which was the parent group for the Turks, Amorites, Moabites, Canaanites. You see what I'm saying? Fomorians, ancient Atlanteans. All of that falls under the term ancient Mauritania.
So then it sounds like, because you're actually kind of delving into another topic that I had for you, it sounds like the names may change the same way we see Black, Negro, Indian, African American, all these things. The names may, change over time, but our ancestors have been written about all through all of this. So one of the questions that I was actually going to get to, and you don't have to, you can finish what you were saying, is Moors and where was their impact on the biblical era, but you kind of were answering that just now in what you were saying.
Yeah, when you say ancient Mauritanian, like when the prophet Nobuju Ali, peace be upon him, referred to the Moors, he said that we are descended from the ancient Mauritanians, the ancient Moroccans. So that ain't the people that's over there now. They ain't ancient. We in America, the black male here in America, in the southeast portion of America, can trace our lineage back over 385,000 years, which really is a novel, nominal number. I would take it back, because if they say 385,000, you know that they done seen at least 500,000 to 1 million.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, they always undercut our numbers.
Right.
So when you read that study about the oldest DNA found over here from the patrilineal line going from father to son from over here, and it goes back further than what they saying Lucy did over there, it lets you know you got to also put that in context with the Henrietta Lacks thing. Henrietta Lacks was from over here.
Yeah, you broke that down in one of our last.
The knowledge from with the DNA, from the patrilineal DNA mitochondrial coming back from father to son, going back 500,000 years. That's still in the southeastern portion of the United States. That's still over here.
You talking about that Florida Seminole area?
That's everything from the tip of New York, from tip of Montauk all the way down to Florida. But remember, the map is reversed. So Florida is really at the top of the country. New York is really at the bottom. You understand? They got it flipped.
Where could we see a visual of that?
Visual of what?
The upside down map, to give people the imagery.
Just picture it in your mind. Just look at a map and turn it upside down. That's how it looked.
Right.
It don't look the other way. It don't look right side up, because the right side up is fake, because all civilizations start in the south and then go north. You understand what I'm saying?
Why is that?
Whenever there's a conflict, it usually happens between the northern part or the southern part. Right?
Why is it that all civilizations start in the south?
Because it's hotter down there.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. That's even how bacteria grows.
Civilization start in the cold.
Right.
Don't start in civilization in the cold. Even the Moors that lived in the cold, like the who they call the Inuits or the Alouette, or the old Tatarians, these type of people, whatever. At the time that they lived in them places, you know what I'm saying? That's not where they developed. They developed someplace warmer and then went and conquered those places and then lived there.
They were migrants.
Right. And then re-terraformed it, created the free energy buildings and all of that, and then changed the whole topography or climate aspect of the area that they in. That's what these buildings and all these stuff was there doing.
So
that's why we could live in Alaska. That's why we could live in Antarctica and all this shit, because we already had the technology that was already up there to help sustain us, because we was able to change the literal topography of the land.
I got a question while you're talking about free energy and ancient but advanced technology. I've come across quite a few things that have, talked about, like Nikola Tesla, and then, you search Tesla long enough, you'll always end up back at pyramids. And from my understanding, or at least, what I've seen from research, pyramids worldwide are an energy structure, and it was essentially to create a power grid. What do you know about that?
They're like giant power plants, but they're not based in the physical matter the way that we understand it. In the sense that, like I said, okay, the Juneteenth thing, to just put a bow in that.
Yeah. When
the United States, the fake one, started this campaign through the annexation of Texas, they knew who all the land belonged to. Right? So what they needed to do was come in here and cause beef. So what they wanted to do was get the slaves, i.e. prisoners of war, that were at war with the dominant nations over here, and then get them to be free, so that way they could hook up with the Union, you see what I'm saying? And then bang on these people. When really these POWs that were put into slavery was put into slavery by people that looked like them, because that was the custom of those Indian or so-called Amerindian, i.e. Moorish American clans that existed at that time. So we wasn't going out here enslaving everybody, but if we got into beef with one another, then this is where the indentured came in. That was the difference between us, our indentured servants here, and the way that the European Moors dealt with their indentured servants. Their indentured servants, could eventually free themselves. Here, once you came to invade our land and our empire here, you was going to be a slave perpetually. That's just what it was. So a lot of these ones that you see on the plantations that look like black slaves, and they was just all stupid and naked and you know, have been there for generations. These are the ones that have been put into these concentration camps, i.e., became plantations, you see, to work off the fact that these people were descended from the invaders that came, you see what I'm saying, and try to kill the nation. So this was happening between everybody. Like I said, the Seneca had beef with, at one point, the Algonquin dialect, the Algonquin speaking peoples were referred to as the barbarous nations. Okay. Anybody that's referred to as barbarous or Barbary, those are Moors. Right. Okay?
Traders, right?
Right. These are the Moors that was all up the East Coast and all the southeast portion of the United States, going all the way far as Texas.
Okay, so this was a merchant class of people, these ancient Moors.
Yeah, these was the Moors that were connected to the greater empire outside, and then was bringing commerce back and forth to all of the different indigenous so-called nations that was here, because that was the agreement going all the way back from when we was Fomorians or Phoenicians and all of that.
Okay.
We protected this part of it because this was the first part of the world to raise up out of the deluge. So when all the waters receded from the last cataclysm, America was the first land up. You understand? And again, America is just the western portion of Africa. You understand? So we keep thinking the world is broke. I'm talking from the time it was together to where it broke apart, to where it was together, to where it broke apart, to where it was together, to where it broke apart. That's where we are right now. And now it's moving closer together.
Is there evidence that, because when we look at the continents, we can pretty much see it. Like I got a map right above me, one of the Mercator maps. You can pretty much see where it looks like Africa damn near fits right into the space in between the U.S. Central America.
You can look it up right now. You can look up right now on the internet. 250 million year-old piece of Africa found in Southeast United States.
250 million year-old piece of Africa found in the U.S.
Yep, you see it?
I'm typing that in now. And I know we got a late start to our geologists have found what they believe is a slab of Africa still stuck under America 250 million years after the two were squeezed together by a giant tectonic collision.
There you go.
Yeah, and that's the times.co.uk. There's a bunch of articles about it. Yeah.
Oh, it's even further. So now put that in context now with the Henrietta Lacks thing with the DNA. Then put that in context with the patrilineal DNA of the original man found in South Carolina, whose DNA goes back 500,000 years. So this is what I'm trying to say. Like, there's never been a point that we haven't been here.
Okay.
What we are doing is dating our history by caveman, by niggas that wasn't even here. There was no Asians. There was no Spanish. There was none of that. None of that existed.
Not in the way that we understand it today.
That exists now because they created a society based upon the remnants of who was running the last one. So of course, because we was running the last one, we got to be at the bottom of this one, because we was the one putting foot to ass to all of these people that was trying to come over here and just run crazy.
Right.
But this is not to say that the people that was already over here, these so-called American Indians, they act like these niggas, they act like we was just always mad peaceful. We went through huge epochs of time and peace. But towards getting closer to the modern era, to the modern epoch, all of that started to break down. So when we talking about the war between the United States, the war between Rome, the people who the Romans fell to the Moors. Period. The Romans or Greeks could never name the Moors. Because why would I be fighting a war against you and I'm going to use what you call me to identify myself? Does that make sense?
Right. Why would you let your ops call you? Why would you take on that name?
My ops call me what they and then answer to that name?
Right.
That's stupid.
Right.
But again, the Greeks were stupid people. The term Greek means Grekos, which means to break apart or somebody that's stupid. The people who were considered Grekos or Greeks were the socially illiterate people of the ancient world.
Mm-hmm.
So it stands to reason this is why they would use these idiots as the basis of modern democracy and modern civilization.
It's like the way that the elite liberals talk about their followers today, the useful idiots.
Yeah, because that's what they are. Because the whole Greek system is a sham. All of that is fake. There was no people called the Greeks. Like as a nation, they did not exist. They did not exist. That was just a name. That's like if we see somebody today and we like, oh, look at that stupid. That's what we would refer to these type of people as. They was just stupid. They just was coming from the ancient world and they was holding on to a lot of the old unnatural concepts that could no longer apply to how we were bringing the world into the modern era. Mm-hmm. So they had to be put to the back. They had to be subjugated. Alexander the Great was a vassal. His father, Philip of Macedonia, was a vassal to Hannibal Barca. You understand?
So you're saying that these people were implementing what Hannibal Barca wanted done at his behest.
That's right. That's why Alexander was so successful, because he was following the kill scripts of Hannibal.
Yeah, a couple of maybe last year or so, I was having a conversation with a guy who, I got no issue with the man. He's a relatively smart guy, but he's an older Italian cat, and he was telling me how Hannibal Barca wasn't black, and I was just like, bro. And because of watching,
he's a Freemason. He know better. He's a Freemason. He just can't admit that to you. Anytime these idiots, these white people, these white scholars, and these people try to come out and say what somebody isn't, coming from the ancient world, when their ancestor and DNA can't be traced back to anywhere indigenous on the planet, that's a Freemason and he's a liar.
So now that you brought that up, that leads me to a good segue. This is a concept, and I want to just pull it up on screen. You won't be able to see it, but it is on screen. This is a topic that if you could break down the definition and what it is, I know that I'm going to cut this clip up. The iconoclasm.
Okay. Iconoclasm is when Caucasian people or people that are not the original people of the place they're excavating come in and try to change the features of the original people and then create the history to say that they look lighter than what they are. Another name for iconoclasm is romanticism. Romanticism. Another way of saying it is impressionism. That's another form of whitewashing. Mm-hmm. These whites don't exist in history the way that we do. So they have to create a fictitious historic aspect of it and get us to believe that they were there like that. And so because we watch, so recently we know that King Henry and all these people was melanated. We know that because they made pictures of themselves. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? To show and prove that. No Caucasian WIGHT people was running anything in the world prior to the 1900s. That's facts. Anybody saying anything different is most likely down with them and trying to keep this thing going.
Where can we find information about this for the naysayers and the detractors?
About what? About the fact of the European nobility being black?
That and the fact that well into, past the 1800s, melanated people were, running these dominions.
Look at it like this. In 1871, the United States citizen was created. So what were people prior to 1871?
American.
Exactly. So that means then if you become a U.S. citizen, you cease to be what?
American.
Right. So that means then a U.S. citizen is a creation of this act of 1871 that was instituted by the so-called United States Congress, right? Mm-hmm. However, if all of the white people that we saw gangs in New York, right? Didn't you see all them white people being brought over here on ships?
Yeah, and it's funny you brought
and then being given Union uniforms and then being shipped right down to go kill black people.
Right.
Didn't we see that? So how is it that these niggas is coming from somewhere they never been before, but then they're running the government.
Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make any, the same way it don't make sense that slaves could, you were illiterate 2 years ago.
Come on, man, you was illiterate 2 years ago. How are you now black Republicans running the country?
It makes no sense.
Get the book Hidden Lincoln. In the book, it says that everybody in that book, it says not only was he black, everybody that he was dealing with was black up until the conflict. When they started importing these immigrants over here, immigrant is another name for slave, which means, again, Slav. We could never be slaves because none of us have Slovenian, Esclavian, Yugoslavian DNA. We don't have it. So that means when I say, and you call me a slave, you're basically saying what? That I'm a fair-skinned European. How can that be? You see what I'm saying? It don't make sense. You are claiming to be something that you never were because of a story.
The same way with us describing ourselves as black, right? Isn't that the same thing?
That's what I'm saying. It's a construct. Like I said, the Moors would never allow themselves to be called what another nation call them. We don't do that.
Right.
We wasn't into nicknames and all of that. All of that came from the European Moor, from the Christianized, melanated Moors from Western Asia, in the region now we call Europa. There's no such thing as Europe. You understand? That's Western Asia. That's Western Asia. That's Eurasia.
Right, Eurasia. And
there's no such thing as the Middle East.
Northeast
Africa.
Right.
You understand? But niggas created an idea. A guy named T.S. Lawrence created an idea that we could separate this part and make people feel like this part is different than the rest of it. And people run with that shit like it's true. So if they lied about that,
shit, I could only imagine. While you're on that topic, to give people a visualization of what Aseer is talking about. If you could go to the USCensus.gov or whatever, and if you look up North Africans, those people are legally classified as white. These are legal statuses. This has nothing to do with your actual skin color.
Yes, because the white, it says that if you're North African, you have relations to the original peoples of North Africa. But I just told you everything west of Morocco is Africa. That's the Al-Maghreb Al-Aqsa. We just looked on the website and it just showed you that the 250 million piece of Africa is the southern eastern portion of the United States, which under the old so-called India maps referred to that whole region as the region of the barbarous nations. And these barbarous nations that they talk about was who? The Yamasi, the Miccosukee, the Catawba, the Tasalagi, the Seneca, the Pani, the Monacan, the Tamoancan. Like, these are all Moors. These are all Muslim people that now we have been led to believe that these niggas was out here worshiping the corn in the dirt.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? And living in shack teepees when we have all of these buildings. What about the Corn Palace? Look up the Corn Palace. This was an old Cherokee palace that we built. That the white man gonna tell you, he built or somebody else built it. Somebody came from another place. And no, all of these structures was already here.
Yeah, this thing's huge too. I got it pulled up on the screen for the viewers to see.
That's right. We built that. If the white man built it, build it again.
I've never even heard of this.
They can't build nothing that was already here. They can't build nothing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They haven't created nothing but lies and confusion. The people who are over them is our real enemy. And those are the people that look like us. Because these are the niggas that's puppeteering these white people. You always thinking the white man is in control of all of this shit. I told y'all, Vernon Johns was the one that brought Bill Clinton to the Bilderberg meeting, man. They wasn't rocking with him unless Vernon Johns said it was okay.
So while you're on that topic, then, Aseer, one of the things I had on my list, could you explain to us and the listeners, because you explained iconoclasm. I appreciate that. We're definitely gonna, if you want to put a bow in that, you can. But my next question is Black nobility. What exactly? Because I've heard of black nobility, and I came into the I haven't done a ton of research into it, but I started hearing things about the Pasor family. I think their name is the Pasor family, and these people are people above the Rothschild. The Rothschilds are essentially their bookkeepers.
Yeah, it's a bunch of them. It's a bunch of them, man. And like I said, that whole stuff, the whole Pesos stuff started when I started talking about that a couple of interviews ago. And now I'm seeing some white people starting to talk about it. Because that's what they do. They watch what I do and then they'll go on their shows and then try to, you know what I'm saying, do their thing on it. But nobody was really talking about the Peso thing and it being connected to the Moors and how that relates to the American government and stuff. For those people that didn't listen to that interview or wasn't there, everybody heard of Marie Antoinette and King Louis, right? French Revolution, right?
Yes.
And everybody know that the French Revolution was connected to the American Revolution, right?
Okay.
That's because the guy they call Benjamin Franklin, if he did exist, which we don't think he did, he was at France at the time that the revolution popped off. And the revolution popped off and culminated with the beheading of Marie Antoinette and King Louis.
And these were melanated people, right?
Yes. Okay. These are all melanated people. France, the dominant class in France is darker skinned people, you know, as well as so-called what we would call mulattoes, or what they would refer to as octoroons, right? Because under mulatto, you got different classes. You got mulatto, then you get a mandroon, then you get mulatto, mandroon, quadroon.
Oh, it's based on the percentage of black, right?
Yeah, that's how they doing it. That's how the French did it. And this is what I'm saying. So this was the system that they had already came into. Now, when we say French, we're talking about the ancient French, the real black French called the Ferengi, F-R-I-A-N-G-I, like in Star Trek. And the Ferengi became known as the Franconians. The Franconians became the Franks became the French, okay? These are all the same people. These are all melanated people speaking one of the so-called Romance languages given to them by the Moors. Because remember, the Moors were the ones that taught and gave Europa their designation and the languages that they speak today. But back then, in the time we're speaking of, the language of the French court would be what we would today call Spanish. And the language of the Spanish court would be what we call French.
Why did these things switch?
Based upon Reconstruction. You know how they do. But that, you know, we'll get into that in a minute. That was more dealing with Reconstruction. But at this time, these Ferengis, they noble class, they were the ones that were fighting most against the tradition.
Here we go. There. Every time we do any type, for the viewers, Aseer's gonna hop back in, I'm sure. Every time Aseer really gets to talk and stuff, there always seems to be some type of connection issues, connection error. I'm not sure. I'm gonna go ahead and stop that screen share real quick. And then as soon as Aseer hops back in, we're gonna get back rocking. Oh, okay. So yeah, I can hear you now. I don't see you though. I was literally just telling the listeners when you dropped out, like every time you get to, you know, talking too much truth, you always seem to have connection issues for some reason.
You, bro. That's how they do it, man. Until the people is able to get their own platform. I mean, I have my own platform, but you know what I'm saying? Until we get our major platform, right, we all could be on our own networks. We're all subject to, unfortunately.
Right.
But Marie Antoinette and Louis was killed. He was beheaded. They had two sons. One son was retarded.
Okay.
The retarded son turned out to be the decoy son. That's the son that the people who set off the French Revolution, who eventually would be the backers of Napoleon, they
made him the front man.
Right. They used him as a scapegoat to then turn. They said, okay, well, we have him. We're gonna keep him and lock him up in the castle. We're gonna remember the story of the man in the iron mask?
Yeah.
That's him. This is the guy they put in the iron mask. and D'Artagnan and the Three Musketeers had to go and save him and all that, and then spirit him out to England. This is the story. This is what happened. So this is how Dumas, who wrote the Three Musketeers and the Man in Iron Mask, this is how he knew all this shit, because he was in the French army and all of that. Okay. So why would Dumas, this black man, fight for this white man who obviously hated all these black people? And Napoleon was his equal, or Napoleon seen him as equal. You understand? And then on the other side of Napoleon, you got a dude named Murat, who's about as dark as Michael Jordan.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Which is pretty dark.
Right. Because Louis was dark. Louis was about Bobby Shmurda complexion. And then Marie Antoinette, and we've seen pictures of them. We just don't know it's them.
Yeah, I think we broke it down in one of our last episodes.
Yeah, one of my classes, I showed you. Anyway, they had the other son, no. The other son was the one that was able to get spirited out, and he went to his uncle in England. Mm-hmm. His uncle in England decided to get him out and send him to America so that way they could build up the country, to build up the equity in the land that they had out there. Mm-hmm. Because the king was in league with the Moors, because the king of England was a Muslim who was paying money to the Moorish Empire to help him shut down the rest of Europe. The Moors ruled all of Europe after Spain through Britain. That's why we all speak in English.
Aseer, if you could do me a favor, I know we're on a timeline. If you could let me know when you got 15 minutes left. A few people in the comments have asked questions, and I want to, get those to you at the end, so not to throw you off.
Okay. So essentially, that's what happened.
We were leading to the black nobility, right?
Yeah. They spirited them out. He wound up coming over here to the land that was owned by George. George was Muslim privately, but the British court always used Moors, okay? Like when the Hanoverian dynasty was running the British court, there was two translators, Mustafa and Muhammad, and they both was Moors. And they would translate for the king because the language of the court was English, but this king happened to be Hanoverian, so he was German. You see what I'm saying? So when he came in, the only people that could speak to him would be people who spoke German. The only people that spoke High German was the Moors. You understand? So if you wanted to get close to the king in the court, you had to be cool with Mustafa and Muhammad. So that became the thing with the brutish Moors and Britain with us. That's why the Moors could always get work and everything in Britain, because we was running Britain. And then that's why Britain was able to then take over the rest of the world, because everything that happened under Granada, under Spain and all of that, we went and took that back. But we couldn't do it as a consolidated empire anymore, because some of these Moors was not traditional Moors anymore. They was now more European, but they still maintain a Moorish nationality. See what I'm saying?
Like if we were to come into it today, we wouldn't be of the same ilk as like the original Moors, but it would be our spin on it with that nationality.
Right. We're the descendants today. They're remnants, the antecedents today. The only problem is there was a break in our patrilineal line. You see? So there was a certain break in terms of our translation of our ancient culture to now that allowed these other foreign influences to come in and make us think that we're something else.
What was that break, Aseer?
Huh?
What was that break that happened?
What they call slavery. This is what I'm saying with the Peso people. When they sent him over here, he was put under the jurisdiction before he left under a Moor named Bayshore. Okay? And then Bayshore came over here, and then they adopted the name Paysor, which means paymaster. And then they set up the Virginia Bay Company, or I would say the Virginia Tobacco Company, in what they call the Virginia Bay. That's why every time you go on Virginia now, it's Virginia Bay this, Virginia Bay that, Virginia Bay that. But because they switched the E
to an A.
Right. Everybody think you're just talking about some inland island when you're talking about the Moors that was actually running all of that. Because from the Virginia Tobacco Company, right, we get what became the District of Columbia. And then from the District of Columbia, they turned that into what? The United States, because this was all a ploy for the British monarchy and the exiled French monarchy to basically come in and usurp the original government of the Almohadanos Estados that was already here, that the United States refers to as the Algonquin Confederacy, which is another name for the original government. You see what I'm saying? For the Societas Republicae Almohadanos Estados. But they make us think that Latin is a dead language because we're a dead people. See what I'm saying? They got us thinking the history of that side.
It is so crazy how you keep hitting on topics before I get a chance to get to them, but I got them written down.
Because they all related. They all related to the same thing, man.
And one of the topics that I have written down is on screen for the viewers, Latin languages. It's on old, ancient money and new money. Why is this, in your opinion, Aseer?
Because they can't get away from who founded this whole thing, man. Like, we're the original people of Earth, not just America, not just Africa, of Earth itself. Everybody came after us. They got us looking at the western portion of Africa, which is what they call, the eastern portion of Africa, to us, which they call the motherland. But if there's a motherland, then it has to be a fatherland, right? So the fatherland would be that which rose first, and that is us here. So we have our own distinctive DNA signature, haplogroup, epigenetic transgenerational inheritance that is totally separate from everyone else on Earth. Okay? But what they want us to do is believe that we just like everybody else, we just come from these Africans, right? And we look like this because some white man came and raped our grandmother. That's what they telling us, bro.
Right.
And black people believe in that. I just told you the Juneteenth thing was about black people, but the United States going in and forcing a free nation of people to free the prisoners of war that they had enslaved for coming in trying to invade them. And these niggas talking about the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment. This shit ain't got nothing to do with that. But of course, they're going to give you a trinket. They're going to give you something ceremonial. So that way they don't got to do nothing for you tangibly.
Malcolm X said that 60 years ago, that this is exactly what they were going to do. You got an
anti-lynching bill. You got an anti-black hate crime bill. You got let's put a moratorium against police brutality nationwide across the country. A moratorium against deficient education. A moratorium against black people being forced to take and eat medicines and things like that that come from other races that destroy our genetics. Why don't we get anything like that? You know why? Because the black folks that's in government are descended from the same backed European blacks that was over here getting us to go away from our original thing for the first place. That's why all these niggas go in Europe. That's why all these niggas always is marrying white people. That's why half these niggas is gay. That's why they all are Christian, right? They all out here promoting and trying to get you to vote for Biden or try to get you to get vaccinated or whatever, because all these niggas descend from the same sellouts that been selling us out from the time of Prince Hall.
All the YouTube ads, all the celebrities on Instagram, everybody is black trying to tell us that we need to go get this pokey.
They down with it, and they all are self-hating perpetual slaves that have been probably generationally brought into it like that.
Right.
They probably don't even realize it themselves. They all been doing this for so long. Their grandfather was a slave. Their great-great-grandfather was a slave. This is the type of people they think they are.
Right.
So when you talk about the Gully Geechee people, when you talking about the society people, all the people none of these people were slaves. They just said that they found some slave ship in Alabama. I think something with a C. Forget the name of it, but that shit fake too. It's all fake. You understand? The slave ships that they talking about, nobody built ships specifically to haul slaves. You know why? Because nobody was doing that in mass like that. The people that were being brought from place to place were being brought under different things like the Transportation Act, like the Indentured Servant Act. Then when they were brought to whoever they were given to, whoever they had to work for the indenture now, if they treated them bad like slaves or whatever, that's something else. Why you think Britain was the first country after doing all of this stuff to go against all the slave traders? Think about that. Britain was the first European nation to go against slavery and actively pursue slave traders. Why would they do that if they was the ones doing all the enslaving?
Right.
The reason why is the same reason me and you speaking English right now. See what I'm saying? Because we the same people.
Right.
So when they talk about the black nobility of Europa, they talking about the Moorish nobility of Western Asia that came over and adopted the European identity, named after the ancient Phoenician queen Europa,
right,
who was descended from the queen that established Carthage. Her name was Dido, the goddess Dido, right? Who the white people act as white,
right?
Who they try to depict as white, but the founder of Carthage.
While you're on that topic,
black woman.
While you're on that topic, I've talked to some people who consider themselves Middle Eastern, and they seem to be along two different thoughts of lines of thought process. A couple of my friends, some of whom believe
Let me get
that.
My charger. Hold up.
Yep. And while for the listeners, so Aseer the Duke of Tears, his specialty, and we're going to get into this at some point, is in jurisprudence, which is the theory of law. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about.
The positive, jurisprudence is the positive application of law by which everything that should have been. Jurisprudence follows the tenets of what they refer to as natural equity. And natural equity looks at that which should have been done as done. So if I sent you a letter and you're supposed to mail the letter and you didn't mail the letter, you are in violation, not me.
Right. It's hold them accountable.
To you, so again, jurisprudence is all, like all law, is really based on intent. Like magic, it's based on intent. So if your intent is to dominate and create another tyrannical society, then that's what you're going to do. Whether you Moorish, whether you Chinese, whether you whatever, that's what you're going to do.
So if, for example, in jurisprudence, the way that it's understood, if you put someone on notice that you have stated something as a publicly notifiable fact, and they have X amount of time to respond, and if they don't respond, then that's on them, right? Not on you.
That's on them. They're in default.
Right. So, but before we, really delve too far into jurisprudence or anything, are you familiar with the term? Because we were just talking about Latin, right? Are you familiar with the term prima noctua?
Prima noctua?
Yeah.
Yeah, like premature.
So I forgot exactly what I was looking at, but that we were talking about one of my friends. We were talking about how it only really takes 3 generations to change the color or what we would perceive as racial identity of a specific group of people. And I can't remember what movie it was in, but at one point, like the Irish couldn't really pay, some of the original Irish were black, is the claim that was being made.
They were all black. Right.
And in order to change them, when Caucasians were invading these different places, prima noctua was one of the things that it was an ancient law that they implemented, where on the wedding night of commoners, they would essentially go and rape the wife.
Right.
And
that's an old Roman, that's an old Romanian custom though. That's how the Romans created the Roman Senate, by raping all the women that came from Sabia for the appointment. They raped all the women, and then that first generation became first generation that would lead to creating of the Roman Praetorians. That's why we, the Moors, was against all of that. Because really, Rome is really Ethiopia. That's why Ethiopia was never invaded by no European nation.
And we got into this whole conversation in our Black History convo, where you were explaining Haile Selassie and how he went by different names depending on where he was.
Yeah.
And the last king of Scotland even came in on that convo.
Right. With Prince Henry from Gloucester. Yeah, because he's Scottish.
Right.
Prince Henry, aka Idi Amin. But see, that's what I mean. They had been exiled out there. They couldn't go back to Africa. So they blended in with the Africans and then adopted the European stuff and started to segment that into their
culture.
into their culture. Why do you think the Africans still wearing wigs?
I was just about to say, is that why they're still wearing these dumbass wigs?
Yeah, because again, these blacks that's running the countries is descended really from, they not descended from the indigenous so-called Africans that had always been there. The ruling class, the ruling factors are those who were participated in the colonial system. To this day, 64 if not 65 of these African nations still pay into something called the continuation for the pact to continue colonialism. They got to pay 15% of their GDP to that.
The continuation for the pact to continue colonialism.
Yes, look it up. And they all paying into that. But these are the same niggas telling you to come over there and be free with them. How I'm gonna be free with you and all y'all niggas still paying money to Europe? And you can't even tell your people that the ruling factor that's ruling over y'all is really European.
And just
why all the African leaders do all their business in Africa, all their business in Europe. They send all their children to school in Europe. They buy a whole bunch of property up in Europe, right? They what you call it? They send 50% of their GDP to Europe.
Let me read this off real quick, Aseer. So at the top, the first thing that I get, it says in June 2019, Chiambrori Kwa, former ambassador of the African Union to the United States, stated that France takes over 500 billion from Francophone African countries based on a pact they forced these countries to sign before they were granted independence.
If they don't sign it, and then if they don't, what they do, they send in what the French do. The French has the Foreign Legion. The Foreign Legion is there to destabilize governments that don't pay them. And what these things
they operate like some of our three-letter agencies.
Yeah, just like the alphabet gangs over here do. They'll go and get some niggas and they'll pay them some money to go shoot this nigga. That's what they do out there.
Right.
And this is why the perpetual coups keep happening. So what the French is saying, that anybody speaking French is under our jurisdiction because that's our language. You see?
Right.
Except Haiti.
Why except Haiti?
Look at it like this. Haiti is to France what Taiwan is to China. Get it?
Yeah, I do.
Haiti is the real France, right? But what the Haitians did was they went against their own revolution, and after a while, there's a ritual that they sacrifice.
You're talking about after 1804.
Yeah, they saying that the reason why that they are in the position they in was because they sacrificed a black pig. The black pig that they talking about symbolically was Desania.
That's a person?
Yeah, that was the leader of Haiti. This is the guy that turned Haiti into an empire.
Okay.
And so they got real scared of that and shut him out and basically killed him and replaced him, I think, with Christophe, who wanted to always be French because his mother or somebody was mulatto. And everything started going downhill from there.
So I'm gonna do a little bit of a 180 here because there's a few different topics that I want to build on, and I don't know if your wife is around, but I'm sure you would know her perspective. I want to know your perspective, but I often do think that a strong woman's perspective on these things are often ideal. What do you think feminism and its effect on so-called Black culture has been?
Well, first, there's no such thing as feminism. All of that, what we perceive as feminism, was a form of advertising that was created by a guy named Edward Bernays.
Edward Bernays.
Yeah, Edward Bernays is the father of feminism. He created it and marketed it to the CIA. And then the CIA got a bunch of whores that they already had on tap. Whores like Gloria Steinem, Paglia, as well as a lot of trans people that they had out there, like Irma Mankiller, and a lot of these types of people that people wouldn't know unless they really research feminism. I really researched this shit.
I got him pulled up on the screen so people can see who it is you're talking about, this Edward Bernays guy.
Thank you. Yeah, these are all of the culprits. This is Gloria Steinem, ex-CIA agent, ex-Playboy Bunny. who is now the stepmother to Batman, Christian Bale, whose father left his mother for her.
Oh,
and
wow.
She went on TV and said how feminism and all that shit was a lie, that she was put up to it by CIA. Then Cosmopolitan magazine in the late 80s did a whole spread on it. And then years later, put out an apology and said how they destroyed generations of women by making them believe in this thing. So because the original woman had gotten to the point that, see, between 69 and 70, we was gods.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we always was gods. We was titans, meaning we all had our natural hair. We was all in shape. We was all about the people. We was all about getting it by any means necessary, right? We had just come off the death tour of them killing Bobby, Malcolm, John, Bobby, Malcolm, Martin, Edgar, right?
Right.
And all these niggas. So they had already been from that. So they had that year, they had that decade to figure out how they was going to box us in, so that way we would be set up for crack by the mid 80s. Mm-hmm. So that was the era we was the most together. We was the most thing, but we had the most heart, but the least understanding of where we was at. Mm-hmm. You understand? So that way, by the time 80s came now, that was all done away with. By the end of 80s, everybody was fat. Everybody started getting fat. Everybody was had perms. Everybody had weaves. Everybody had makeup. Everybody was a goddamn social worker. Every kid was home by themselves. All within 10 years.
And they say, I think right now, the number one employer of Black women, so-called Black women in this country, are retail and the federal government.
That's right. Because she is the new white man running the store for him. Because she agreed to it. The Black man never agreed to none of this. Right. I'm not talking about these sellout bootleg niggas. They never counted.
Right. That's what I was about to say.
Them as real men.
We're never talking about them.
Sorority, fraternity, Freemason. You can't count them niggas as being down with the people. They are not.
They are not us.
If they swore that oath and they rode that goat, if they not trying to repent and get out of that, they are worshiping the same devil that they say they not. Not because I say so, not because I hate them, but because that's what they doing.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with what I think. Who cares what I think?
Right.
I'm telling you what it is. All y'all niggas is serving Lucifer. So yes, I can tell you in the metaphysics, as I came up watching Bobby Hemmett, I know. You understand? Like I study with these elders, man.
Right.
So as much as these niggas want to be metaphysics and talk about how Baphomet is this and this means Baphomet is really Muhammad and Lucifer is really the pineal organ and all that's great. I understand all of that. But you know what? The 85% don't know that.
Right.
They don't know that. They wasn't educated on that the way we was.
And
so when these niggas see a Baphomet, they think that that's what you down with. Perception is reality to the 85. Right. So we supposed to be schooling them as to what it is. You can't just always be shocking niggas. You know what I'm saying? Trying to act like you more advanced than them when these people are still not even understanding that they wasn't even slaves.
Right. And again, for the listeners, and if this is your first time coming across Mogul Minds Network or Aseer the Duke of Tears, everywhere you can follow him, and our previous conversations is in the bio of this episode. Wow. He broke down this whole connection between the Moors being the original teachers who even made Freemasons possible. He got into all of that about how their aprons are there to hide their shame. Mm-hmm. So he broke all of that down. But right here and now, just to bring it back full circle, Aseer, feminism and this, it was essentially, based on what you've explained thus far, a psychological operation.
It was a derivative of Darwinism. Mm-hmm. Darwinism, psychiatry, right? Is all the same shit. Communism is all the same shit. It's all coming from the same twisted, Freemasonic, satanic, devil-worshipping, baby-eating people. That's these people that founded themselves and put themselves in power by exiling all of the original people who were part of the original governments throughout the planet. And then use their network to then only create educational systems that would retard the real inheritors of everything, so that way they would always come up in a fictitious society by which they believe that they were perpetually at the bottom. The same way the dirty brutish after the 1900s did the caste system in India, and they still keeping it up today. Nobody more racist than Indians. Nobody more racist than Asians. You think white people racist?
Yeah.
The Asians, them Indians, they keep the darker skinned people in all of their countries to the back on purpose. They are doing the same thing the white man doing. Because when he go, guess who's going to be the new one? It's going to be one of them. Really, right now, it's looking like China and the Asians are trying to be the new white people.
Right.
But their birth rate is 0. I don't know if y'all know that whole billion Chinese people, that's dead. That's been dead since Tiananmen Square, homie. These niggas is dying. They have a 75% of the Chinese population right now is dudes. You know what that means? They society over.
Right. It's only a matter of time.
They over, because they done killed all of their females. They done raped all of their females. They done turned the whole country into a rape organ harvesting camp. And this is the guy and these are the people who supported and have been blackmailing the fake president that's running now with his fake Asian mistress chick who used to be the side bitch for Montel Williams and Willie Brown.
Oh, you talking about what you call
Heels Up Harris?
Heels Up Harris. It's funny. A lot of the stuff you were telling us about her, Judge Joe Brown just did a podcast with Kwame Brown.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
he did.
And he was. You seen him?
Nah, I didn't even know.
He was drilling her, and you know he gonna know. Like he's
he know because that's his generation. He
right.
know that. You know what it is, Mo. They was all boo. He was around them boule niggas. They know how to get down to orgies.
Everything you was saying, he was saying it in that interview.
He was saying it, right?
Yeah.
See, because the truth don't care who tell it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He don't care. And this bitch been out here doing all of that, and now she done convinced all of these black people to vote and put her in office. And this is the bitch that locked up all of the black men.
Right.
Locked up all of the black children. Went on Breakfast Club and laughed at y'all niggas while weed, but you locked all y'all up for weed. And then what? Then this bitch Monica, the singer, she done had Dr. Fauci on her show, on her podcast, talking about how vaccines is this and that.
Aseer, you just did it again, Aseer.
Over.
Aseer, you just did it again. Now I just pulled up a topic that I already had in here. It says Fauci, also known as Fraudchi, because of this Freedom of Information Act. If you could just break that down real quick for the people.
I told people from the beginning, if you go back and look at all of the interviews I did from the beginning of this thing, I told y'all they cannot make this thing mandatory because it was never a vaccine. I told y'all it's not real. It was a suggestive. It was a post-hypnotic suggestion.
Right.
And they amplified it through the 5G towers and the peer pressure and the black women and the sellout dirty black men to get you to do it. But guess what? They saying 70% of the 80% of the planet still ain't vaccinated. Because niggas ain't doing it. Because they not stupid.
We don't believe
what
them.
Fauci is, remember, Fauci wrote you can look it back in the 80s. This is the same guy that was killing the people with the AZT.
Mm-hmm.
They got documents, they got pictures of niggas holding up signs saying Fauci is trying to kill us in the 80s, my nigga. You understand?
And these were gay people
this when he was trying to flip the AZT for the AIDS, and I know all about that because my uncle Taharka, he called himself Taharka. He been dying of AIDS. This man been dying from AIDS since AIDS came out, right. And he almost 90. This nigga almost 80. And I remember when he was going through it, and they was talking, my mother and them was talking about going through it and getting the AZT and how much it cost. And they was trying to get money to do all of that, knowing that the shit was man-made, because Gallo was the guy that created it. Fauci was the guy that marketed it. CIA was the one that backed it. CIA was the one that backed it. China was the one that came up with the design for it. That's why they had to work in tandem together. I even put out the patent number for it when it first came out. So everybody acting like they don't know what happened. Everybody know what happened. This nigga lied about it because this nigga is also the low-key son of Mother Teresa, one of the biggest organ harvesters, one of the biggest human traffickers in history.
I can't.
That's his mama.
I can't think of an organization that does more harm to children, like one specific organization that's also a non-for-profit that does more harm to children than the Roman Catholic Church.
The Roman Catholic Church, UNICEF, the Children's Aid Society, all
the UN, the UN.
Same thing. You know what I'm saying? They all doing the same thing. They all Jesuit back. They all using and retarding children because they want to get as many of us melanated children destroyed, because what you do to them, you do to Allah. Once you do to them, you do to the future. And because these Negroes that we are beset with every day on the internet, every day in music, these niggas hate us. You understand?
Right.
These gangs, these gangs, these rappers, these entertainers, like they want to shame. They'll shame. Like my queen just showed me this thing with the you know them singers Chloe and Halle.
I'm super unfamiliar with pop culture.
Okay, my queen just showed me these two chicks that used to dance for Beyonce. That danced for Beyonce. Was down with her. She put them on like her protege.
Okay.
And one of them just did a dance routine to Strange Fruit. And they going in on this young girl saying how, she slutted it out basically and all of that. And she didn't. I mean, she's not doing anything numb up that the rest of them doing.
Oh, the two girls from Blackish? Or the Yeah. I know which twins.
Right. They targeting her. They saying that, yo, she's this and that. And she bugging. She can't be out here doing that. But then these same people is out here cheering Lizzo.
Right.
Who is 305 pounds.
Morbidly obese. No, 307, I think.
She's deadfully obese. It's not even morbidly. She's deadfully. She about to be about it.
Hey, Shaq only got like 20 pounds on her.
Bruh, she's over. She's three of me. She's three of me and one of my queen and two of my queen. Like, and what I'm saying is to say that I'm out here in Miami, man. So women from all over the world come out here just to walk around here naked for some reason, right?
Right.
And what I'm seeing, bro, is I read a projection in the Agenda 21 thing where they saying that they want to get most melanated or African-American Black women to be obese by 2040.
Why?
That by 2040, they need as many Black women obese as possible. So they want to get your tipping point. My brother, I'm outside and I'm watching. They are really close. I have never seen people go to such lengths to prove that they are not insecure by showing how insecure they are. And this whole idea of feminism, of you as a female having no shame, by taking things that whores used to do and now modeling that as if it's some sort of female empowerment.
Right. When
most of the chicks at your job that look like you that's melanated are either baby moms or you are in, multiple relationships or whatever. When all of the white chicks that you working with your age is most likely married, right? Most likely fiancéed up, or no, not only they on their way up into a better position because of their status.
And
you know what I'm saying?
And just in case there's any female viewers or listeners who don't want to hear this from a man, go and listen to Shahrazad Ali. This sister's been teaching this since the 80s.
Sister Shahrazad Ali was there, and she was giving it to y'all sisters with love. With love. You understand?
They didn't want to hear it.
Elder, grandmother, married for over 20 years. Who else going to tell you the real but that? No, y'all don't want to listen to her. Y'all want to listen to Ayanna Van Sant.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Who my pops, not to big up and throw his business out there, but she wrote it in her book, who my pops kicked out the crib when his girl came home because she was the side chick. Right. And now she out here telling you how to fix your life, get your shit together. But who put her on? Oprah. You see what I'm saying? Right. And what is Oprah?
The same
gay mafia.
The same boule.
Consigliere for the gay mafia. Who's the gay mafia? These are the niggas that's backing the LGBTQ code, which is different from the gay community.
Right.
The gay community is over here. LGBTQP, that cult, them Satanists, they over here.
Right.
Regular gay people not fucking with them.
Right. And that's what people don't understand. People think that because we say these things, there's some type of hatred. No, there's agendas at play in every group of people.
Look, I hate lies. If I hate anything, I hate a damn liar.
Right.
So I hate niggas that act like just because I don't want to be gay, I'm somehow secretly gay. That's mind control. That's post-hypnotic suggestion. That's Edward Bernays. That's all of the shit that he was doing. That's double speak.
Or that you somehow hate these people.
Yeah, they created that. It's fake. It don't exist. Right. The LGBTQP people, that is all backed by another organization called the Tides Foundation.
I thought you were going to talk about NAMBLA.
The Tides Foundation is also contributing to things like NAMBLA, the Man and Boy Love Association, right. Of which, what's his name? David Ginsburg was one of the big people in. And it was started by another guy named David Berg, who was one of the biggest, most voracious child human traffickers throughout time. From that cult, the Children of God came, and from there we get River Phoenix, Rose McGowan, Joaquin Phoenix, who else? Johnny Depp, all these niggas, they all was down with the Children of God. And that was a sign, and that was a cult by which David Berg, who was a part of NAMBLA, who was also part of the ACLU, who was also one of the lawyers for the Black Panthers, okay? These is the niggas, right, that's working together to basically make it so that way you can have sex with your boy. And so now the LGBTQ community, which came out of that, is now all being funded by the Tides Association, Tides Foundation. These are the niggas. One of the contributors of that is the new guy that this dude Biden hired as the health administrator. Look at that dude.
Yeah, I was seeing some shit about that.
Yes, that's the dude that walks around in tutus and My Little Pony skirts and bikinis and all of that. And this is the guy responsible for the health of the nation.
Right. Somebody like in the 80s, this was still considered like gender dysphoria. It was literally considered a mental disorder.
It's still listed as gender. Homosexuality is still listed as a mental illness in all medical journals to this day. Look it up.
Rachel Levine is the person you're talking about. So I'm going to show it on the screen. This is the person.
Another one named Jennifer Pritzker. This is a guy.
Pritzker. Yeah. Pritzker is the name of the governor here in Illinois.
Yes, that's probably his brother or sister or whatever. And these niggas, I got a whole thing on the Tides Foundation. And these are the guys that are, because see, the trans thing is all about, is part of Big Pharma.
It's a part of the depopulation agenda, right?
Yeah, that's what it is, but it's also a part, before it's that, it's a part of Big Pharma.
Right.
Because if you want to be trans, you got to get medical procedures.
Hella drugs.
You got to get medicine. You got to get, what else? You got to get
estrogen, testosterone.
Who's paying for that?
Right. Us.
Exactly.
Us.
And so, but also when you check non-binary on your birth certificate, that means that you cannot own property. Because only property can be handed down to mothers and fathers. So what do they want to do? They want to get rid of the term mother
and father, right? Aseer, while you're on that topic, it's funny you said that. In Illinois, in 2018 or 19, they passed a law, very low key. Most people here in Chicago I talk to about it have no idea about it. They passed a law where on your birth certificate now, you can go and change the gender of your child on their birth certificate. So my question now is, my son is only a year and a half. In 15 years, 16 years, how do we know that the person that he wants to deal with
I'm saying, that's what I mean. That's hell. This is the hell that they're putting everyone in. They want to make Falcon and the Winter Soldier gay. They beefing about that because Anthony Mackie came out and said, look, man, it used to be a time when two men could go out, chill, and all of that, and it not be anything.
Right.
Now, if two men is chilling, they have to be gay. Why do y'all need everybody to be gay? Because you don't need men, because men are going to stand up and say, no,
Right.
I'm not letting you cut my son's penis off. No, I'm not letting my daughter go out there with her skirt out so she can twerk and get money at a gay parade in front of all of these men with their cocks out.
That shit was wild. I just saw that clip.
Anybody that supports it, like Harris, like all the sorors, like all the fraternities, like all the boulets, like all of the HSBCUs, all of those niggas are the enemies of the so-called original black man and black woman, who are the nuclear family that Black Lives Matter says that they want to destroy.
And just so we're clear here, Aseer, I would say, based on what I've seen, I understand and agree with what you're saying, that the majority of these people are, I don't think unwilling participants. They're just ignorant followers, useful idiots, right?
Yeah, but again, man, ignorance of the law is no excuse, bro.
That's facts.
You serving the devil. You serving the devil. It don't matter whether you know or not.
Right.
When you brought before in the great getting up morning, when you brought before the grand judgment, and Allah say, "But what did you do to destroy Western civilization? What did you do to take the devil off the planet? What they gonna say?
Right.
What they gonna say? Oh well, I had a job. I had to, Well, what did you do to sacrifice and save the children that were being molested and murdered? What did you do? What did you do to make sure the next generation had knowledge of themselves and knowledge of themselves as God, so that way they don't have to go through that? What did you do? Right. Oh, I voted. Oh, I went and marched. Oh, I held signs up. I voted for Kamala. You know what I'm saying? I went to my sorors, or I went to my lodge and spoke to my people and used Jesus' name. And this is what these niggas gonna be doing.
Right.
Allah gonna be like, oh, you're going to hell. Just go. Fuck up out
Get the fuck out. Yeah.
Exactly. He'd be right.
So
I tell people all the time, if the ancient Moors was to come back and see us in the state we in now, they'd probably kill us first. Shit. And they'd be right.
And I think about that too. Like, how would I be able to stand and face? It's actually with bringing up our ancestors. How would I be able to stand and face them? I do have that thought. Like, do I even hold up to what I would have been in a different time? Do I even hold a candle to that man?
That's what I'll be thinking about, because that shit is real. And my ancestors did not die. My ancestors did not fight and die and was murdered for me to participate and vote in a system that killed them. That does not make sense. It don't make sense. My ancestors did not die to give me the right to vote. My ancestors died to keep me free, nigga.
Right.
Period. So that way I have knowledge of myself, so I can pass that through my penis into her womb and then recreate life, because we're God.
Right. Together.
It ain't her. That womb is nothing until something is put into it.
Without a seed.
Nothing. I'm just saying that there's no life in it.
It's fertile soil, but without a seed.
Fertile soil, but there's no sentient life in it unless it's put there by a man. So you could say what you want, but you wouldn't have no gay niggas if it wasn't for heterosexual niggas making them.
Right. Right.
But I feel like half of these gay people and these gender dysphoria people is fucked up because it's the heterosexual people molesting them, selling them.
So-called heterosexual people.
That's what I'm saying. These ones that's acting like that they hetero when they passing. These is the pastors.
Right.
These is the choir directors.
Right.
These is the uncles. These is the school teachers. These is the low-key pedophiles.
The people been married 30 years and don't nobody even know what they're doing.
40 years, but nobody in the family like this nigga. Why?
Right.
Because he's a piece of shit. It doesn't matter.
As we were
he's a pedophile.
As we were just talking about spirituality, it's a two-part question that I wanted to ask you about. The second part, which you can bring it to, is spiritual warfare, what it means and where you think we can see it today. But the first part is, you, like many men that I know, I happen to be a bald guy. That's hereditary. But if I could grow my hair, I would grow my hair. And I say that to say, I've heard from quite a few different people in multiple different cultures. It don't matter if we're talking about Rastas or Sikhs. There's ancient belief that your hair is your antennas to the spiritual realm, or to, help you open up that pineal gland and all it does. Do you know anything about that? And what are your thoughts on that and leading into spiritual warfare?
Yeah, your hair is an extension of your central nervous system. So the longer your hair is, the longer you're able to tap into what's around you. You know what I'm saying? Okay. They put things, that's why they created chemicals and stuff to get us to lose our hair. Like every corporation on earth is trying to kill us. Once you understand that and accept it, then it's easy for you to stop participating with them. McDonald's is trying to kill you. Arby's is trying to kill you. You understand what I'm saying? Big Pharma, they trying to kill you. Nobody is trying to keep you alive. They're trying to keep you alive long enough for you to have a baby so that way they can do the same thing to the next baby. They are not, no corporation on earth was ever set up to help humanity. That's why we kept a lid on them. There were no corporations under the Moorish Empire. That's why we established the British Empire, and through the British, they was able to establish what they call hundreds. Those hundreds is what we today call corporations. And there's something called the Book of the Hundreds. But in the Book of the Hundreds, it says that the Moors are the bailiffs of the hundreds, meaning that we are the ones that summon the courts of the hundreds to what they call the several sheddings, meaning that we are the ones that gave the corporation the lease, the land to do business on. Therefore, every Moor technically is the head of every CEO of every corporation on earth. When you got your nationality, right? You have the right to sit on any board.
Because they cannot exist without your ancestors.
Title, because they don't exist, because all corporations come out of what? The Virginia Tobacco Company. And guess who was down with that? Who was the original beneficiary in that? The Bayshore. And Bayshore was what? A Moor, right? And the Moors were the ones who helped George and these niggas fight against the rest of Europe and put them in line, right? Which is why we have free reign, which is why we all speak in English today. We ain't speaking Arabic. We ain't speaking nothing else. We speaking English.
Right.
Why? Because when the shit happened after Spain and Grenada and they start flipping the maps and all of that, the one nation that was running everything and control that we could still get burning, major burning, was Britain. So why not we going to do that? Why wouldn't we do that?
So, you know, when you say that, the average person who knows history the way that we're taught it today, they're going to say, oh, well, no, it's just because the English colonized the world.
How do Caucasian people who do not read, do not write, have never been outside of Europa, thought the world was flat, could not measure, did not know the distance of what a cubit was, did not even have compasses? How do these Europeans leave an island and take over the entire world from an island? How do they do that? Yeah. It don't make sense, especially when China at the time, under the Song Empire, had bigger ships.
Right.
They had battleship. You understand more?
They never tell us
battleship-sized ships.
They never tell us how many Europeans it took to enslave all these Africans.
More, can't no 3 ships go to no country and destroy the entire Western Hemisphere within the span of 10 years. That's impossible. So what we are really seeing is the Moorish Empire actually lasted way longer than they telling us that it did, but they put it under different names like
Ottoman Empire,
the British Armada, the British Empire, the Mughal Empire. Like they put it under different names. And then they get a bunch of people that wasn't there from the original point and then put them there, give them the language, and then now they act like they always been there. So now these Chinese people that have been there since the revolution, they think that they're the same Chinese people that existed there prior to the revolution. It's a damn lie. All them Chinese people was as dark as me.
Yeah, actually, I've seen pictures, and I might have to pull it up.
Same thing in Japan, same thing in Korea, same thing in all of these bleached out Asian nations that all of a sudden now don't like niggas.
Right.
All of a sudden. But the ancient name that Japan,
I'm just pulling it up on the screen so people can see what you're talking about, Aseer, with these black Chinese. Like, I'm just pulling it up on the screen.
Look at the Anu people out there. These are the people that they killing. These are the people that they harvesting out there, the Muslims.
Oh yeah, the
Uyghur.
Chinese, yeah, the Uyghur people, right?
Yeah, the Uyghur Moors. All of those is black people. Just like the same people that the Indonesians trying to wipe out in West Papua New Guinea. Just like the same melanated people they trying to wipe out in Australia. Just like the same melanated people they trying to wipe out out here, us.
Right.
Here.
And that makes me think of the Malcolm X quote where he's literally sitting there telling a room full of so-called black people, everywhere in the world that you go, Aborigines are black. Right here in America, Aborigines are black, but you don't like being called Aborigines.
No, you rather be called black.
Right.
Because that lets other people that's not Aboriginal to be Aboriginal. These white, light-skinned Siberian, East Asian people they refer to as Native Americans, those are descendant. Okay, there was the ancient Mauritanians, the Moorish peoples, the Zambos. From the Zambos, matter of fact, I got the list.
Perfect. So Aseer is, breaking down the different groups of people or the different classifications or subgroups to the Mauritanians and the Moors.
Yeah, when you say Hispanic, the term Hispanic comes from the term Hispanicus. The Hispanicus gladius was the sword that the old melanated Romans would use when they would go and conquer different places, when they would fight against the Moors of Carthage and whatever, and all the nations that came after.
That's not the one they call the scimitar today, right?
No, the scimitar is the English word for the Moorish name Dul al-Fakar or Dul al-Fakir. Okay, so when you see that sword above the mason's head, that's the Dul al-Fakir that the white people call the scimitar.
I always wanted one of those, and I don't know why.
Yeah, because it's in your nature. You know what I mean? It's in your nature. Like when you see a pair of Jordans, you'll be like, I like those. I don't know why, because it's in your nature.
Right. I will have one of those. Can you say it again?
Exactly.
The proper way?
Use the word will instead of want.
Right.
Use the word strive instead of try. See what I'm saying?
Speak it into existence.
Indeed. So, for instance, since we're talking about it, so Earth, as we understand it, is a elongated spheroid plane that exists as a realm.
Wait, hold on, Aseer. How could it be a spheroid and a plane?
Because what we perceive as a spheroid is what they refer to as the firmament.
So semicircle.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Which is, yeah. Okay. So let's say semicircle, planate.
Like
planate.
Like a snow globe for people who need an image.
I wouldn't even say that because that's still globular. I'm speaking from a perspective of outside of what you and I perceive as shape.
Okay.
Right? What we perceive as shape come from what they call platonic solids, which are geometric spheres that create in third density things like boxes and corners and walls. Okay. So when you and I think of Earth, we're thinking of an eternal plane that just is of an expanse that goes off in each direction, right? But that is so expansive that it exists in a perpetual expanse, meaning that when you get to the edge of the expanse, there's another expanse on the other side of that. So we really have no real perception of what it is. The closest I could see it as was like Asgard in Thor. You know what I'm saying? In the Thor movie.
Yeah, no. I'm a huge Marvel fan. So
that's the closest I could understand it. It's like Asgard in that way. There was a movie called The Signal that came out with Lawrence Fishburne, and at the end they show a similar version of the same thing of what I'm talking about.
I rock with my
continuous
guy Larry.
Expanse that exists in a multi-layered, multifaceted, dimensional expanse.
So it's infinite going out and up and down.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And this is where string theory comes from?
Right. But the limit has already been the summit of how far everything can go outside of it has already been mapped.
So
you
it's
can
all
find this in the
predetermined.
Encyclopedia Britannica 1955 edition, if you can find it. And in that edition, it says that the firmament is exactly 13,000 feet, 80 degrees latitude south, 90 degrees longitude east. At the North Pole, right? Or what we perceive as the North Pole, which is actually really the South Pole, because it's the southern magnetic pole that exists in the north. So if you get a map and you put a magnet in the middle of the North Pole and you get a compass and you make the compass go around the map,
right?
The compass is always gonna hit the same direction. You understand?
I have a Gleason's map in front of me. I got a couple of maps in this room. I'm gonna pull it up for people to see it so they can get a better understanding of what you're saying.
Excellent. So from that point, if we was to go to the middle and go straight up, they're saying that the distance between the ground and the firmament is approximately 385,000 feet. Now, the reason why that's crazy is because I told you when they did the DNA test on the black man in South America, the patrilineal test, they said that the DNA goes back, 385,000 years.
And that's
isn't that a coincidence?
Right.
That the patrilineal DNA of this original man in this portion of the world goes back basically to the same degree as the distance between the ground and the firmament that we refer to as the Van Allen belt.
Right.
These niggas ain't never been to Mars. They ain't never been to the moon. They ain't never been nowhere because they can't go nowhere because this place existed for them. And spiritually, you got to have some sort of melanin, some sort of soul tie to be able to do that. But going into outer space means that you need to go to the inner space. You go outer space when you go inside the world because you have the temple body and then you have the body as the temple, right? Just like you have a sphere of genetic sequences. At the top, you had the Moors, the ancient Mauritanians, right? The Titans. Then you get the gods who are now, let's say, the Moors. Then under them now you get the Indian associates who are now the Zambos. They're still Moors, but they are now more connected with the Asian people or the Western Asian people that we've been using and been breeding with to make this whole new race, to civilize this whole new region. You see? So you got the ancient Mauritanians, the Moorish peoples, the Zambos, then you get the Chinos. Then from the Chinos, you get the Coolies. Then from the Coolies, you get the Indios. Then from the Indios, you get the Chicanos. From the Indios, you get the Mestizos. Then from the Mestizos, you get the Chicanos. You see? From the Chicanos, then you get the Spanish. You see? So Spanish, again, that's a new word. That shit just came into existence in a little while ago.
Right.
That's why Spanish people are considered Hispanic because technically they descend from the Roman side of the family. The Moors, the ones who were speaking Latin, right?
Are Latino.
Against Carthage, right? Who were carrying the Hispanicus gladius, right? And who would be seen. So when they would see them coming, they would say, oh, the Hispanics. Et Hispania, you see? And so the descendants of them would then carry on that same legacy. So there really was no different kingdoms for the Moors. We had different sultanates and stuff, but by the modern age, by World War II, all of the sultanates was starting to be attacked by Japan. Japan was the one that went in and destroyed the Delhi Sultanate, the Sokoto Sultanate, the Kanem Sultanate, all of these sultanates that was around. That was their job.
Why Japan?
Because Japan was working with Germany. And they were part of the Axis, and they were basically going to be the eastern portion of what the German Reich was. But remember, the German Reich was split. You had the real Germans, the real Adolf Hitler, Mohammed Hussein, and the Black Sun Society, and the Thule, and the rest of them.
Aseer,
who descended from the original Austrians, the original Bavarians.
This is like
the white decoy.
Hold on one
Charlie
second.
Chapman and these niggas.
This is like the third or fourth time I've heard you bring up the other Hitler. Is there a place for people who are listening they can go get? And then again, for anybody familiar with our content, we'll get a book list from Aseer, or we'll write down all the books he said, and you can go to the website. It'll be scrolling at the bottom, and we'll get that to you if you email us asking for it. But Aseer, where could people find some of this information on the originals and then the decoys?
There was a guy named Matthew B. Brady, who was an American photographer in the National Archives, and he was one of the biggest ones that go around, and he would take pictures of presidents and kings and all types of stuff around that time. And when you look at the people that he was taking pictures of and you look at their names, you're gonna bug out, because some of the names of the pictures don't look like the people that we've been said that they are.
Right.
But all of this again happened in Reconstruction. This guy was the guy who basically developed the daguerreotype photography.
Actually, I'm seeing that. I got him pulled up online as you're explaining it. So that the people,
he was real big, and he, in his documentation, when you go to the National Archives, you'll see they got all of the pictures that he took. Pictures of P.T. Barnum, Barnum and Bailey.
Yeah.
P.T. Barnum. Those are two black men.
Oh shit.
What's his name? Booker T. Washington, that's really Teddy Roosevelt. Frederick Douglass, that's really Rutherford B. Hayes. Like all of this stuff. And see, this type of history.
So look for his photos in the National Archive. In the National Archive, okay.
Smithsonian, any of them pictures. You can look into that. Also get a book called Ancient and Modern Britons. Get another book called African Presence in Early Europe. They got pictures of George and all of these niggas in there. And they all black. Get the book Nature Knows No Color Line by J.A. Rogers. That book will show you. No, everybody was black of power. White was the status. So it was the status that everybody was going for. But the true whites were who were connected to the Alawites, and the Alawites were the Moors. That was the ruling dynasty. Matter of fact, the king of Morocco right now is he claimed descent from the Alawite.
The king of Morocco?
He's just the king of Morocco. He ain't the sultan.
Okay, so the sultan is above the king.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the kingdom that kingdom of Morocco is a low-key extension of the pact between the United States and France. Think about it. Morocco didn't become that until 1955. But we got a treaty with these niggas from 1787.
Right. And who was that treaty then with?
So where was it at?
Right.
Also, remember I told you, 250 million year old piece of Africa
was found
in Southeast United States. So that means Jersey was part of Morocco. That means New York was a part of Morocco. That means Georgia was part of Mauritania. You see what I'm saying?
And
you go through the whole horn.
You said in one of your lectures that there's an older map that we can seek out
Get the Piri Reis map. Piri Reis Bay. Pirireisbey. Piri Reis Bay. Get his map. That's the oldest map that they got of America. And that's the world. They got older maps than that too. We just got to go to these countries and get them back.
Piri Reis map. Okay.
Yeah, Piri Reis Bay was his name.
I got it pulled up.
Circumnavigated the world. How do we circumnavigate the entire planet, bro? If we was just slaves.
Right.
Think about it, man.
Illiterate slaves.
People doing this. You understand that there was no white people doing none of this. There
was
no WIGHT Caucasian looking people doing none of this stuff by themselves until after the 1900s. That's just a fact. That's why Birth of a Nation came out in 1900. That's why the consolidation of the so-called KKK and all of that came at 1900. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because this was going to be the way that they were able to exacerbate and keep the lie going by enforcing it on everybody through the education.
Right.
And so the so-called
compulsory education.
And that's because the Black Republicans, i.e. the original Congress, had been usurped. So when we see that image of all the so-called black, when it says the Reconstruction or Black Republican, that's them. Lincoln was a Black Republican. The Black Republicans were the Moors who were running the government. That image that you see, sometimes they'll show you of Lincoln, and he looked like a dark-skinned man and kind of looked like Abraham. That's not Lincoln. That's Grover Cleveland.
Ah.
You know what I'm saying? Just like the guy they showed you is John Hanson. That couldn't be John Hanson because they didn't have daguerreotype pictures at that time that John Hanson lived. That guy that they show you in the picture as John Hanson, that guy's name is I just had it. He was part of the Congress though.
I got a picture of the Congress pulled up for the people, you know, who are watching, so they can see all these Black Republican congressmen. And again, I just want to drive this point home for the naysayers and the people who don't understand. How could people who were just illiterate slaves form entire functions of government and political parties and become millionaires?
How did they have oil fields? How did they have oil? You understand? They talking about Black Wall Street and all that. I've been showing pictures of in my videos and stuff of how niggas had oil fields. These same, when they talk about the Trail of Tears ended up in Oklahoma, that's the people they talking about as the Black Wall Street people. That's them.
Right.
And when they settled where their ancient land was and they built up their whole cities that was already there, and they own oil fields. They was pulling 3,000 barrels of oil out the ground a day.
Right.
These Black people, I got pictures, and this is all in the same archives and shit. They got a store that was out there that was built that's still running from 1713.
Shit.
You understand? You understand my man Sheldon? Big up to Sheldon out there in the Canaan land, and them. They got a grocery. They got a pharmacy in Germany. That's called the Morin Pharmacy. That shit been there since the 1400s. And it's still got the same Moor's head in the front. Come on, man. This before doctors, before hospitals, before all of this.
It's funny you say that too. They did like National Geographic or some shit did this thing on like the oldest man in America, and it was an older Black man. This was a couple years ago. And they asked him like, how do you do it, sir? And he said, I can't remember. He said a couple of things, like he smokes a cigar every day, but he was like, and most importantly, I stay away from doctors.
See, that's it, Mo. I stay away from them niggas too, bro. I ain't gonna tell you how long it's been since I've been the one. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like they created this fiction and they got us all in it, and they make us think that we're bugging when we want to be something else. So anything you say you are, they want to say the opposite. So now they got this new critical race theory that's now got the white man so bad, so scared that he's now trying to make it so that way nobody can talk about slavery or race and all of that. That's why they gave these suckers the Juneteenth thing. So that's why they could say, oh, look, I gave you a holiday.
Oh, hold on, real quick, Aseer. Can you explain to us your understanding of this critical race theory and what you think the objective of it is?
It doesn't exist. Critical race theory was created for people like me, because I'm out here changing the geopolitical, historical context of the algorithm that they have working to control everybody. When I started myself, I said, well, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna make sure that I flood the game with so much real Moorish information that anything Moorish come out, somebody gonna have to holler at me about it. Not based on ego, but because I realized very early that these Moors that I was getting information from was straight lying to me, and these niggas was a part of different orders and societies that had nothing to do with the Moors. So I said, well, I'm gonna be the best Moor I can be. And if I get to the position where people are actually listening to me, I'm going to go through and prove all of this stuff that I've been keeping quiet on all these years. Prior to the internet. I was doing this prior to the internet.
Right.
20 plus years out here.
The internet just lets you show and prove.
Yeah, that's just building up stuff that I already had. But there's so much stuff that I got. There's certain shit that I can't even talk about for another year and a half. You understand? That's how I bring out information, because I know a lot of these niggas will take it and try to turn it into something else, act like they came out with it, and then flip it. I had some dude the other while ago hit me with a copyright strike because I used some image that I found off the Google, and turned out it was from one of his pages or some shit. Then I'm like, well, I apologize to the nigga. Like, hey, brother, I didn't even know that you did this image. It was just happened to be up on a Google search and I used it or whatever.
Right.
So I'm sorry. This nigga was like, well, instead of being sorry, why not just bring me on your platform? And then that way you can basically big me up and basically like I'll take it down if you put me in your position. This is a grown man talking to me like this. I said, well, sir, I don't do videos with other men about men. Number one, that I don't know. And two, it seemed like you just doing this for clout.
Right.
So you know what? Keep the fucking strike up. I don't care. I don't make money off of YouTube like that.
That's what DJ Vlad did with Farrakhan. That's the exact same thing.
Yeah. That's what this nigga did. I done had people come out try to tell me I'm a clone, do videos where I'm a clone, like crazy shit. All because I don't participate in none of the foolishness. So they got to try to draw you in. These niggas don't trust you unless you got some dirt on you.
Well, in all fairness, Aseer, I have heard you say in one of your lectures, or maybe it was an interview you were doing, and I saw it in the Amazon Prime show Invincible, and I know you're into comic books, so I don't know if you've seen it. But even if you were a clone, you wouldn't know, Aseer.
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. But see, at the same time, you would, because the story is every clone think that they the original one, right? That's how the story is. But at the same token, anything that is grafted has a shelf life. You understand? So you can do things to test your own resolve to find out if you are alive or not. One of the things you can do is what's called post memory regression, meaning that before you go to sleep at night, you sit down in your bed after you do your prayers or whatever you're doing or whatever, you get into it and you put it where you try to regress yourself in your memory and try to remember as far back in your life as you go, no matter what it is, no matter how insignificant, small, whatever. And basically go within the recesses of the mind, the inner mind's eye, which is the pineal organ, and basically bring about who you were as to who you are. Meaning, I'm me now because of the experiences that I had. And those experiences were, and now this is where the mental Rolodex start coming in. Now you start to remember, oh, I remember when I was 5, I did this. When I was 7, I did this. When I was 8, I might have done this. You see what I'm saying? The more you do that with yourself, the more you start to sharpen that which Allah has given you, which is the memory. Because the memory comes from what? The mammary, which was the suckle that came from the epigenetic transgenerational inheritance that comes from the mammary gland that fed us while we was babies. So that retains all of the memory of creation, especially yours. And so when you start to regress and start to put those things back, that's like you putting yourself back together. That's like you being your own therapist. That's like you being able to go within your mind and find out what triggers you and when it started to trigger you, so it don't got to trigger you no more today. You understand? But most people don't do that. People don't think about their past.
Right.
This is why our people suffer from what? Lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge of themselves.
Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it.
Your own. How you going to study history, but you won't study your own history?
Right. Right. We won't even look into who your grandma's grandma was.
Or who you was at 10. Who you was at 11. Who you was at 15.
Right.
That was a whole different person. And it was still you. And you had something then, right, that either enhanced where you are now or took away from where you are now.
Right.
And if you can go to that 15 version of yourself and actually ask it the question, hey, well, what happened and blah, 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 blah. You could find out. The same way you can control your dreams is the same way you could do that. Because you, again,
is that a form of astral projection?
No, this is internal projection. This is the body as the temple and the temple as the body. So before I go to sleep, I'll be doing that. I'll be really going in and trying to remember different things that happened to me or different things I did or how I felt and things like that as I drift off to sleep.
That sounds like internal therapy, like people,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, that's what it is. There's a way that you do it too. You imagine a spiral staircase going all the way up and going all the way down.
Like the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, or like any staircase that's spiraling going up to infinity and going down into the bottomless pit, right?
Right.
You're in the middle. So you're either walking up, that's you finding out stuff about your future, or you're gonna go down, which is you finding out stuff about your past. Regardless to what you're doing, as every landing goes up, there's a door. And as you get to that door, in your right hand, you have the pi symbol. You know the symbol of pi?
Yeah. Like the little line and the two lines below it.
Yes, use that as a key, open the door. Walk in, see what it is. If you want to see the past, you go down, open one of them doors. You walk in, see what it is, interact, leave, lock the door, go up. And you keep doing these exercises. You don't like using a spiral staircase? Imagine it as an elevator. Imagine it as an escalator. Imagine it as a ladder, whatever. Because what you're imagining is what you are doing is getting your subconscious mind to activate your DNA helix. The stairs, the ladder, the escalator, the elevator. Those are all symbols of the DNA. The bridge. These are all real world symbols of your DNA. So if you see a movie and they blow up the bridge, what are they doing? Blowing up the DNA of the main character. Because 10 chances to 1, the character got to do something to get across to the bridge, right?
Like that's a gem that you just dropped right there. And you call that activating the DNA helix.
That's called inner initiation of the DNA helix, yeah.
Inner initiation of the DNA helix. And that mental exercise is something that I'm gonna chop this little clip up and make sure that clip hits Instagram and everything too.
People should do that. You will find out a lot of stuff about yourself you wouldn't even know.
Right.
And stuff about you in the past life. Because see, there's also a part of you when you go into the future, there's gonna be a part, you gotta be careful how far you go, because there's a part of you in the future that is no longer human.
How do you mean?
Meaning that there's a part of you right now that's not human.
That has left the physical form?
That was never human to begin with, that didn't exist as a human being. There's a part of you that exists in your consciousness, at the edge of your consciousness, like right before death. Like when you die, are you still a human? Exactly. This is what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that there's a part of you, the edge of consciousness, that has always existed, that existed before humanity existed, which is mind-boggling, because there never was a time that man did not exist.
Right. So
according to how we were raised.
It is like it in and of itself, it is forethought, right?
It's instantaneous. We exist in the mind's eye of the ultimate higher self, which is what we will call the creator. So there is no beginning and end for that. So how do we know that we're not in that essence of the creation of the Big Bang right now? We don't know.
Right.
There has never been a time that consciousness has not existed. So there's never been a time that we have not existed, because we were made in the image of the first consciousness.
Right.
Therefore, nothing can take us off this world. Nothing can take us out unless we allow it to. So what is done to us is done to reality itself, which is why we are the constant pariahs, or the Christ being put on the cross, which represents the 4 corners of Eden, which represents what they call the cross of Tammuz, which represent the 4 quadrants of the world. When you look at the moon, if you look at the image of a moon and you look at the image of the so-called flat earth map, they're synonymous, because the moon is reflecting what is already here.
The moon is reflecting. Okay.
We don't gotta go to. We are already in space.
Right.
We're not shooting around the sun in some astronomical. Like none of this is.
Yeah.
Nothing that these people have ever told us about ourselves or the world has ever been true.
Nothing.
So that means that there's nothing that they will ever tell me that will be true. Therefore, I have to accept the fact that everything, anyone that comes from their mode of thinking is askew. It's not real.
The way that we understand our world perception is based in flaw.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you're right.
So
yeah,
I know you got to get ready and wrap up here. Let's. Somebody did ask at one point. Man, this was a minute ago. You were talking about the different Nigabana Kankan, and I'm sorry if I butchered your name, brother. He asked, I pulled it up on screen. He asked, how relevant is Oconmicus, Oeconmicus by Prince Uriel Bey?
OS Economics.
What is that?
Yeah, that's one of the books by the magnificent Prince Uriel Bey, bless the dead. He was a real gem in the so-called melanated world, not just the Moorish community, I would say the Earth community, but a lot of people never found out about him too late. And a lot of people try to discredit him, not because of his work, but because of where he started from. Like he came out of the York
Freemasonry?
No, more so like from the Dr. York Nuwapian type of situation.
Okay.
But from there, he listened to what Doc said, and Doc said, if you do anything, you better claim your nationality as a Moor. And so he went really ham with it to the point where he brought a lot. He was able to meet the Red Duchess. People don't know about this type of Moorish science, but it was a woman they called the Red Duchess who lived in Spain, and she had over 1,800 volumes of this different Moorish history from out the Republic and the kingdom back in the days. And the prince was able to go out there and deal with her. And she, gave him a lot of the knowledge and all that stuff back that he was able to use to basically establish what they call the geodetic survey, which basically gave us in law the right to reclaim the planet.
Okay. Geodetic survey?
Yeah, it's called the Comprehensive Moorish Geodetic Survey of Earth. And the prince put it in so heavy that it's registered with the Department of Homeland Security and the National Archives and the Library of Congress and all of that. And it's for all of us to be able to use to show the jurisdiction of our ancient estates that we still have today. And again, he put out a bunch of books on that you can use as legal documents. I've used them and they worked. It's called, he has a volume set 1 to 3 called The Consecrated Talismans.
The Consecrated, all Prince Uriel Bey.
Talismans. He also had the only comprehensive, educational system on how to teach Latin in the world. It was his system and one others, but his was the best. Because through the Latin he was teaching, it's the Punic Latin, which then brings us back to the Phoenician connection and the Phoenician expansion, which then links us up as the ancient Mauritanians. So imagine we all just start speaking Latin to each other right now. It's over.
Right.
That's one of the things that help consolidate us as a people, being able to have our own language. But in the meantime, English is just as good. You know what I'm saying? Because again, the truth don't care what language is in, who's telling it. You just got to do it. Our problem is we're getting all of our information from house niggas and cave people.
Right.
And corporations that's trying to kill us all.
Literally, we're learning from liars and then perpetuating lies told to us by liars.
And then when somebody come and telling the truth, now we look crazy.
Right.
No. That's why we got to stop casting pearls to swine. We got to stop being out here trying to convince everybody that they Moors. If they not Moors, then they not, man.
Yeah.
But if they not, stop talking about the fact of those of us that is. Why you hating? Like if you letting these niggas be Hebrews and you letting these niggas if these niggas want to they're okay with you putting on a dress.
They're okay with you transiting into being a woman. They're okay with you cutting off your penis to do all of that. But they're not okay with you transiting into a different nationality.
Right.
They're not okay with you transiting
you being royalty
into your true nobility.
Right.
They're not okay with you now in a position where they're now the trustee and you're the beneficiary, but now they got to do what you say. They don't want to do none of that.
Hey, Aseer, what's that one you're wearing here? That's different from like last time you had one that was like a Sphinx joint and it looked almost like a tie.
Like blue. Yeah, this one got Quetzalcoatl on it. I don't know if you can see it. It got Quetzalcoatl, and then I got the what you call an arrowhead. You see?
That's hard. Yeah.
Thank you, fam. But yeah, God, like they yeah, the arrowhead is made of forget the name of it. It's pretty old. Long story short,
it's one of the precious stones, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like lazuli or one of them.
Okay.
But yeah, God, they created this substance for us to get caught up into, and now that we're waking up, they want us all to go back to sleep. So
Aseer,
we're gonna do it or we not.
When we hear about things like, as we're wrapping up here, when we hear about things like the age of Aquarius and the age of enlightenment and these things where, you know, all truth will be told, I see a certain amount of people that I never thought, you know, I got people, you know, coming to me telling me stuff like, man, stuff you was talking about back in the day when I just used to call you a conspiracy theory. Now I'm starting to see what you was talking about. You was kind of ahead of your time. And certain people are coming into this awakening. Other people are, I feel like, really holding on to and going harder with the brainwash.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the awakening process is inevitable for those who are actually open to truth?
I think the truth is the truth regardless. And like I said, it don't care who tell it. So it's going to come out whether people like it or not. What people are dealing with is the fact that they've been lied to and they don't want to act like they that gullible. So they want you and I, who are out here, who are invested in solely in the truth. That's all I'm invested in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, if I support freedom, so if your freedom means that you need to stay in the lie, then I'm going to support you doing that. Just don't bring that shit over to me, because then now I'm going to have to deal with you customarily. And customarily, our people don't do well with people that lie to them.
Right. Like I have a serious issue with that shit.
We got issues with that. So they not going to come with that. So immortality is for those that are fit for it. So if you feel like you're going to get where you need to get with this Caucasian man on your arm or this Caucasian woman on your arm, when you know Allah created somebody that looked just like you for you, when you don't see nobody else in the world, you'll never see no bee getting with a butterfly to have a baby. You'll never see a cow having sex with a cat. You understand what I'm saying? The only time that you see shit like that is when the white man's out here grafting something that had no way to really exist. Even when you get a liger, right, which is a tiger and a lion, or you get
like a platypus.
Yeah, there's a liger, but even in the ligers, the males are always infertile.
They can't have, just like the GMO seeds.
Right. Because it's all fake, because these things don't exist in nature. So nothing that exists in nature will be able to exist in nature when nature takes back control. But in order for nature to take control of itself, we got to take control of our lower nature, because that's what they're using to keep everything going. And they're using the woman, Mother Nature, as the gateway, the cosigner to say that this is what we're doing is because she's down with it. So the fact that Black women, or so-called Black women, and I'm not talking about the ones that's not, I'm only talking about the ones I'm talking about. So for your listeners, if you listening, I'm most likely not talking about you because you listening.
Right.
But if you're not, and you play this for somebody and they giving you extra blowback and extra hate and all of that, then they are proving what I'm saying, that they cannot sustain themselves or in an orbit where there is no Caucasian people. Where there is no, when I say Caucasian people, I'm talking about Caucasus Asians. I'm talking about melanated people that think that being white is somehow better, or that white people are always in control, or that we can't get no money or can't get lighter skinned people or anything like that without white people. Those people are going extinct. So when they gone, what you gonna do? Say that now. You're gonna apply that same concept to Asians. Now you're gonna start worshiping Asians,
right?
Knowing that these niggas is not even on the same, not even that they on the same level. They on the level they at, but they not the original. You know what I'm saying? They're not the original. They did not invent Kung Fu. They did not invent any of them ancient things they doing. Our people did. The god of all martial arts is a jet black nigga named Bodhidharma. And there is no Shaolin temple Kung Fu. There is none of that.
Yeah, Michael
got
Jai
shut
White
down.
even broke that down in an interview recently.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, like on Vlad's channel, just explaining how it was all fake.
It's all fake, bro.
Yeah.
Right now, if you Google China, Washington, D.C. and China, they done created a whole version of the White House in China right now.
What do you think the purpose of that is?
They showing you that they're controlling it. They stepping up and they about to take over the world and put all of the world shit in their country. Didn't the United States do that with the World Fair?
Right.
Can't you go to Vegas right now and see Paris and see the Eiffel Tower?
Right.
And see the Sphinx and see the Statue of Liberty and shit?
Right.
This is what happens when societies come to an end. Their society is at an end. It's all ended. So what are we going to do to begin the new one? We're going to go back and be niggas. We're going to celebrate Juneteenth. Like, that's what y'all niggas think? After everything I'm talking about, that's still going to do that? Without talking about the real, the true reality of what Juneteenth is? No, because then to get into that, you got to get into the actual nations that was here,
right,
banging on each other. You see what I'm saying? Based upon their amalgamation or lack of amalgamation with the white man. Because in the Seminole nations, if they found that you had a baby with a European, they kill the baby.
Right.
Nobody's willing to be that Seminole today, though, right?
Right.
We're gonna go back and we only gonna believe that the white ones is that. Like, nah, B.
So, Aseer, as we wrap here, I do have a quick question, and then I want to make sure to get any closing statements from you and letting the people to know where to find you. Also, it's going to be in the bio. But okay. Cordoba Organics, right?
Yes.
Do you guys do anything as far as like a mucus purge? Is there? Can I email about
for
that?
Your nose?
Yeah.
Like for your nose and stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. She's actually working on something to do that, like a nose flush.
Okay.
Also something for the ears. To clean your ears out with that as well. But it's funny you say that. She is working on something like that. So I'll definitely keep you posted.
Please.
And on the website, she'll have a bunch of stuff on there like that as well.
Okay, most definitely. And I'm gonna go to the website and let the people see, you know,
please do. It's www.cordobaorganics.com. Definitely please check that out. If anybody wants to holler at me, you can hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. That's my email. And then if you want to see any of the stuff I do, you can go to YouTube under Aseer, the Duke of Tears.
I got it pulled up on the screen for him.
Oh, thank you, bro.
And I want to make sure to get any closing statements out of you about just this build today. There was a few things I couldn't get into, but I already know, like, we had some technical difficulties starting. I don't want to keep you too long.
I'm glad we got through it, though.
Me too. Is there any closing statements you just had about the build, the current state of our people? Anything that you just want to close up with?
Definitely, man. I definitely want our people to learn to love instead of hate. I would love our people to put our people, meaning me and you, put our people ahead of everybody else. Stop. When your brother and your sister is out in the world, choose not a stranger over thine own. You know what I'm saying? We need to really get on that. We need to stop backing people who act like they conscious or act like they Moors, but then they only having babies with white women and mulatto chicks and all of that, and then be the first one to talk about how black and how this and how that. Like, people words got to start matching up with their actions again. Mm-hmm. And just because somebody is on the internet and they talking this Moorish stuff or they talking history or nationality, it don't mean what it mean, man. unless they can show and prove, not just in talking, but like, how is his family? Does he have a wife? Does he have a son? Does she have a wife? Does she have a son? How is she talking to me about health and she's 300 pounds?
Right.
How's she talking to me about what it is to be conscious or have or being able to transmute things via alchemy and stuff? And then it's like, you 300 pounds. You don't even got your own hair. You don't even got your own nails. You don't even got your own eyelashes. How are you going to be talking to this man, or how are you, brother, going to be talking to this sister about what it is to be right and all of that? And you hate women,
right?
Or you abuse women, or you're so wanting to be a woman. You see what I'm saying? That now you being extra masculine, and now you giving her all of this extra masculine, all to cover up the fact that really inside you a powder puff, or you might be something else. Like, work all of that stuff out internally first before you go out here trying to poison and get with somebody else and pass that hurt on, pass that trauma on. We got to break the generational curses now. This is the only time we got, is the forever perpetual now. This is the moment that we are in now, not 2 minutes ago, not 3 minutes from now, but right now is the time that you have to decide what you want to be, what you want to decide, what you want to do. But if you're constantly, before you make a decision, you got to go to somebody else, or you got to divine some cards, or you got to, cut a chicken, or you got to do some dumb shit like that. Like, you got to understand, we passed all that now. I told you, we are gods, man. We become gods to people when we die. You know how many people got altars to Tupac and shit right now? You know how many people got altars and stuff to like Malcolm X and these type of people?
I got posters of everybody you named up in here right now.
So I said, God, like, we become gods to people when we die. Look at the Orishas in the Yoruba religion. Each one of them is a different version of a Moor. Starting with Obatala, who's in a white turban and a white Moorish burnous. Like, come on, man. They got another god named Shango Macho. He represent one of the Moorish clans that was controlling the emerald vaults down in the Antilles, what we call the Caribbean right now. Big up to all my Caribbean people, all my African people.
That's
like,
me too.
Big up all yourself, man. Like you was always from there. You wasn't brought there from no Africa. Come on, man. Wasn't no Mexican looking Arawak niggas there before you. If they was there like that, then they would be there now.
Right.
There was nobody there before us. And anybody telling you different is trying to disinherit you, trying to take over your mind, trying to make you feel that you're inferior, which means that they are your perpetual mortal enemy. And you know what you're supposed to do with your mortal enemy. You don't give him no ground. You take his head. You take her head. So I don't care who they are, whether they Moors, Israelites, Christians, Muslims, right? Whatever, Zoroastrians, myth following the rites of Mithra. I don't give a fuck what it is, bro. When it comes down to the end, are you with fulfilling the purpose of the empire? You trying to uphold the empire? Are you trying to bring our people into a higher octave? Or are you trying to keep us enslaved? That's it.
Right.
That's it, man. Everything else is what they say. Popcorn and bubblegum. That's it. Nothing else is real. So again, anybody ever want to send a donation or anything, you can send it via Cash App to $, capital S 418. Also, again, you can check Gumroad, www.gumroad.com, and type in Aseer the Duke of Tears in the chat. And Aseer the Duke of Tears in the search, and then all my classes, latest classes will come up. And lastly, if you go to www.aseerthedukeoftears.com, you can get some of my older works, as well as like the PDFs and a lot of that type of stuff I have.
I'm putting it all up screen. I'm putting it all on screen right now.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate that, man.
I appreciate you, brother. I think that this was a great build. I think that, especially after, I'm still almost daily getting comments on our old videos. One of the things that you said that I think really blew some minds was about Beyonce and that whole Ethiopian connection.
Oh yeah, more. Yeah, more. The U.S. Senator blew her up. Her name is Anna Ostrowski or some shit, something like that. If that's even a real Beyonce, because they be dealing with life model decoys,
right?
Doubles, all of that stuff. Like what's happening now with K Michelle.
And for
K Michelle got the fake face. Beyonce
Yeah,
got the new fake face. Ashanti got the new fake face. Like, this is what they all doing, man. Because these people are not human no more.
That's what I was about to say. For anybody who heard you talking about the cloning thing earlier and felt like we were going into conspiracy theories, here's all I have to say to that. In 2001, in mainstream media, they said that they cloned the first human baby and her name was Eve. If they acknowledged it in mainstream media in 2001, they'd been doing it for at least 30 years before. The only thing that Bush and Obama ever said about it was, we will not do it on American soil.
See? And then let's keep it real. The term conspiracy theory, because people don't read.
Right.
Anybody that used conspiracy theory, the term conspiracy theory, as opposed to somebody giving them knowledge about something, they say, oh, you a conspiracy theory. That person that said that to you was under mind control. Because the term conspiracy theory was created under CIA Directive 1036-950. This is facts.
Right.
So when these niggas talk shit and they say, oh, you conspiracy theorists, what you're doing is using a CIA established term to detract real cognitive reasoning and thought to be supplanted with groupthink and groupspeak.
They acknowledge this to be fact. Right?
They acknowledge this to be fact, and they put it in a directive called CIA Directive 1036-950. So if they wrote it down and put it in there, you know what that is, right? That means then that you are an ape, not you, but anybody using that term to discourage people from doing the knowledge is a CIA agent.
Operative at the very least.
Possessed. You are possessed. The CIA is basically the TVA in the new Loki TV show.
Yeah, I just started watching that.
Yeah, it's the same agency.
So Aseer, this has been a beautiful build. I can't wait until next time. Hopefully we could get some in by like the end of the summer, maybe around that Memorial Day time period.
Probably around then, because I think this is going to be my last interview for a while.
I appreciate you, brother. Every single person who picked up anything. If Aseer said anything here today that you were unfamiliar with, anything you'd like to learn more about, again, go at the very least subscribe to the brother's YouTube page, because he's going to drop content that's going to really open up your mind to some new concepts.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. I got like 20 plus years worth of content, relative content that's coming out of other people's mouth now.
Right.
It's coming through other people's mouth now without giving the props, but it's all good because our people don't know how to well, not all of our people. A lot of our people don't understand what it is to give gratitude. So when they feel that they can't give gratitude, they become envious because they feel they can't subscribe any other way.
How could I envy my brother?
That's it. And we got to forgive our people for our shortcomings, because we was just as brain dead as them at one time too, man. So let's not forget, and let's not put ourselves on a pedestal to say that we something we not. But really, like I said, we in the moment. We in that eternal moment of creation that Allah has put us in from the time that we manifested. So until we manifest out, this is the work we're doing. So those of us that want to do it, just know that we can only do it together. That means you original man, you original woman, you original child. That is the Trinity of Allah. That is the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost. So if you are not with that, then go to the other nation for protection that a lot of these so-called people are going to do. Because like Shahrazad Ali said to the elder, remember, she said, well, they can do what they're doing now, but the time going to come where we're going to have to be together. Right. Where the man and the black man and the so-called black woman is going to have to be together. It ain't going to be no, oh, I'm going to just get with a white man, or I'm going to just get with a Mexican woman, or whatever. All that shit is dead, man. Wow. You don't love yourself enough to reproduce yourself. Don't talk to me about anything else. You dig? Because we are all born in our own vine and fig tree. And there's nothing wrong with my woman, just like there's nothing wrong with her man. What's wrong is we'll keep looking at each other through the eyes of cavemen, homosexuals, satanic deviants, and straight other dimensional entities. that have taken root here based upon our apathy. So let's stop being apathetic, man, and let's start being more proactive. Positive education always corrects errors. You know what I'm saying? So
Most definitely.
Big up to that, man. I wanted to give honor to my father, who passed, Charles Rashawn Edward Rogers. I really love you, Dad. Thanks for doing this shit, bringing me into the world and putting me on the game, man. Honors to all of the fathers all over the planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? Whether you Moorish or melanated, I'm only really speaking specifically to the melanated people. However, I also know that as a species, they trying to get rid of all men, no matter what color they are. So in that regard, we all got to fight against this beast that's trying to get us to castrate ourselves and turn our women into whores and all of this bullshit. So let's stand up for what's right, man. Let's be where we at. Let's love our women. Let's love our children. Let's love each other. And let's definitely support proper platforms like Mogul Minds. You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate
and anybody
that.
else that's had me on their joint, man. I really appreciate it, bro.
Much appreciated. Aseer, this was a phenomenal bill. I appreciate you, and I'm definitely gonna be in tune and keep watching what you got going on. And definitely let me know when Cordoba Organics got something,
Definitely.
for the mucus and everything like that. But
Definitely.
like we said, people, Aseer gave you everywhere to go check for him, everywhere to go follow him. Like he told you, rock with Mogul Minds Network because, like he said, we are out here for truth together. That's our objective.
I'll text you I'll email you the book list too.
Please, because people are gonna be asking for it for sure.
Okay.
All right, appreciate you, brother.
Islam, bro.
Peace.
Peace.
All right, guys, that was Real Talk with Aseer the Duke of Tears. We got into so many different conversations. When I get a chance, I'm gonna cut it up the way that I can. I'll make sure to get the book list out to any. You have to subscribe to our channel, the Mogul Minds Network original YouTube channel, and go to our website, www.mogulminds.net. It's been going across at the bottom. You don't got to go to the /merch, but that is a good way to support us on the network so that we can keep creating this content. You go to the website, go to the About Us section or Contact Us section, and reach out to us asking for the book list. We will get that book list to you. You guys got to touch base with us. All right. And we'll even get you the old book list that Aseer did on our last one. Go and check out that content. This podcast is going to be streaming everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, all of the major direct, streaming platforms. Or you could just always go to mogulminds.net. We appreciate every single one of you that checked it out. For everybody who made it this far, please do us a favor and drop a comment and a like. Comment and like. This is what helps us get through the algorithms, guys. It really helps push us forward. Share it with your people who you know are into truth. Share it with the people who you know could actually use some of this information. And even the people who don't, it is what it is, but it don't hurt to actually give them the information. I appreciate every single one of you. This was a phenomenal bill. I can't wait to build with Aseer again. And go back, check out our old episodes with the homie, teacher and student of the metaphysical spiritual realm, Paige Flowers. We got a couple of podcasts with her streaming now, a couple on the YouTube page and a couple on iTunes and Spotify and everything. Anybody got any questions? Anybody got any guests that they think we should have on? Anybody interested in being a guest? Touch base with us. mogulminds.net. You can hit the contact us section, or you can always just reach out to mogulmindsnetwork@gmail.com. Appreciate you guys. This has been Real Talk Chicago, and you guys been great.